There is only one decision I regret, and it is abortion.
I had an abortion, and it was something I regret to this day.
In 1973, women gathered in front of the U.S. Supreme Court to say they would be silent no more because their sisters were dying from illegal abortions. In 2003, women gathered again at the Supreme Court. This time they said they would be silent no more because legal abortion had caused them emotional, physical, and spiritual problems, and women are still dying. This personal perspective of abortion is the missing voice in the abortion debate, and it was the catalyst behind the development of the Silent No More awareness campaign.
I realized there was this group thing going on, this quiet thing that was happening where all of us were hurting, but nobody was talking about it. And as I would hold women and they would cry in my arms and we'd comfort one another, I would think, this has got to end. We've got to do better for women. Abortion is not a solution. And I went through healing, and I came to understand completely God's absolute total forgiveness. And I know that He loves me, and I know my baby's in heaven, and I know one day we'll be united. But what I also found was that there were so many women that didn't know forgiveness and were hurting. And as I cried with them and wept with them, I said, we can't continue.
The Silent No More awareness campaign started out with women throughout the United States sharing their personal abortion experience, and it has quickly grown to include women from around the world who also know the painful after effects of abortion and want to be silent no more.
We're here because very often people listen to the National Organization of Women and they claim to speak for women. Well, we're here to provide a different voice. We're here to say that they are not speaking for all women, and all women do not think that abortion is a great thing. And these are women who've actually experienced abortion, and they want to make a statement here. Our goal is to make abortion unthinkable, an unthinkable choice for any woman that is pregnant. No woman should have to feel that abortion is solving her problems. You're going to hear by these testimonies that abortion did not solve her problem. It created other problems. And we also want to speak out to those who are still locked in an unspeakable sin that they feel no one can forgive. And we're here to tell you there's good news. There's forgiveness and healing and hope.
As the co-founders developed the campaign to raise awareness, similar to the AIDS and breast cancer awareness campaigns, they saw the benefit of having a celebrity spokesperson to personify the reality of their message. Graciously, actress, CoverGirl model, and author Jennifer O'Neill agreed to share her own experience and put a voice to the reality of choice.
My story was one of a young girl that I was engaged and I became pregnant, and I was thrilled. I was so excited. And the father of my baby not only did not want that baby, but he harassed me and pressed me and pushed me. I folded. I was responsible for that abortion. But it wasn't a choice I wanted, but I was responsible. So I beat myself up for years. I had self-loathing, low self-esteem. You feel in your heart and your soul there's something wrong.
In addition, Dr. Alveda King, niece of Dr. Martin Luther King, joined us in being silent no more.
The daddy didn't want it. He was making threats. That still wasn't reason enough. But Roe versus Wade had just passed, and my medical insurance paid for it, and that was real crazy now that I think back on it. But right after I did it, I began to wonder, did the baby feel it? Did it hurt? Was it a boy? Was it a girl?
More than 1 million abortions occur each year, making it the most common female surgical procedure done annually in the United States. The choice to have an abortion was created to allow each woman reproductive freedom. However, during the campaign gatherings, women share the reality of why we chose abortion.
Everybody had told me that it was the only thing that I could do as a 16-year-old girl facing a crisis pregnancy. They wouldn't let me see my ultrasound.
My so-called boyfriend said he wasn't going to be the dad. The doctor said just removal of some tissue, no big deal. My mom said an abortion would be the best thing. The best thing for who? Not my baby, not me. She said it would end the pain I was in. Abortion did not end my pain, it began it.
I was in a dysfunctional, abusive marriage. I was abusing cocaine, alcohol, and methamphetamines. I tell you this not to excuse what I did, but because the abortion industry would have you believe that any one of those things I just mentioned was an ideal reason to kill my child, and that's what I heard. I heard it from every person I went to. I heard it from the doctor I went to, and God forgive him, I heard it from a minister.
My husband said we couldn't afford another baby. When I refused to have an abortion, he threatened to leave us. I'd never seen him so angry. I knew he meant it.
My mother forced me to have an abortion at the age of 15. She did not want me to ruin my life as having me had ruined hers.
My boyfriend wasn't ready to be a dad, and I was too scared to do it alone. I decided to get an abortion because it seemed like my only choice. I didn't have a job that would adequately support myself, let alone a child.
When I told my husband, he became very angry and said he couldn't handle any more, that 7 children were enough.
And I just had this incredible hope for the future. Then one day I found out that I was pregnant. After really just thinking it over and looking at what I thought were all the options, I decided to have my baby. I didn't think my boyfriend would have a problem with it, but to my surprise, the day that I told him, all of that came crashing down. He could not believe that I would even consider having the child. After going through the discussion with him, and also after my father, who loved his daughter very much and knew that she had all these hopes and dreams, he convinced me and my boyfriend that abortion was my best choice. So my mom one day drove me to the abortion clinic.
While friends and family see abortion as a simple solution to an unintended pregnancy, we are rarely encouraged to talk about what happened during the actual abortion procedure and how we felt about it. But the truth must be told.
As I lay there and listened to the vacuum cleaner suction out my baby, not only did the baby die, but a part of me died that day also. I started using drugs and alcohol just to try to cover up the pain, because the same people who told me that it was okay, not a big deal, nobody wanted to listen to me afterwards and hear me cry. I fell into a really deep depression, stayed in my bed for weeks.
I remember walking in the doctor's office while feeling my baby kicking inside of me. I remember leaving that office knowing that my body was preparing itself to expel this baby. And I knew that my baby was dying in me. This was not a massive tissue invading my body. I convinced myself from previous abortions I would give birth to my dead child.
So my mom one day drove me to the abortion clinic. And I can tell you, for several months after that, I can't recall a single day. But that day is so vivid in my mind that I will never forget it. I laid on the table. And I can tell you, the nurse, she had blonde hair, white lab coat. The doctor, gray hair, gray beard, white lab coat. And I laid there and I was shaking. And I started to cry. And I looked at the nurse and I said, I don't want to do this. I've changed my mind. The doctor got annoyed with me. He said, oh, that's normal. You'll get over it. And then he said, it's too late. And we know that that's a lie now. It wasn't too late.
Having an abortion is often much more traumatic than we expect. We think we are the only ones struggling because no one talks about the feelings we go through afterwards. It's similar to what happened with the tobacco industry in the 70s. Cigarette smokers' health was being adversely affected, but government, industry, and the media ignored the warning signs. Now women are realizing the abortions they had years ago are the source of physical and emotional problems they are dealing with today. Listen to how our abortions have affected us.
What they did not tell me was for 12 years I would suffer from feelings of great despair and loss, that I would become insanely insecure and have great depths of loneliness, that I would marry the man whose baby it was, and that I would end up hating him because he did not protect his family, and that our marriage would end in a bitter divorce. They did not tell me having an abortion would increase the chances of having a miscarriage and the inability to be pregnant again. They did not tell me that my menstrual cycle every month would be a painful physical reminder of the abortion and haunt me as my arms remain empty of my own child. They did not tell me that even though I have had great healing, that my heart would break and the tears would flow at the feel of a toddler's hand in mine, and that I would be not done crying just yet.
I caught a very bad infection that went into my kidney.
And for months, I was awakened in the night by screams, piercing in the night. They were mine.
Before my abortion, I felt I had a very good life. I had goals and dreams, but the truth was that after I had that abortion, I felt empty, with no reason for living anymore. All my dreams and my goals were all shattered.
For the next 9 years, I abandoned the Lord and engaged in a lot of destructive behavior.
I had this one recurrent dream of this baby falling, and I'm trying to reach it, and I'd wake up screaming because it was always just out of my reach.
At first, I felt relieved because my problem was over. But as the weeks and the months went by, I kept thinking of the little life that I had destroyed. I went from being a happy, carefree teenager to a shameful, guilt-ridden young woman. I put up walls so people couldn't get close. I became cynical and hard-hearted. I didn't trust people, especially men, and I had trouble making even the smallest decision.
Nobody told me that I would walk into this self-hatred that would drive me toward death. Nobody told me that I would use drugs to numb the pain, alcohol, become a workaholic, live on coffee and cigarettes. Nobody told me that when I would get married, that the marital embrace would become an abortion connector. Nobody told me that pregnant women would become an abortion connector, that the sound of a drill would throw me back. Nobody told me that I wouldn't even know what my emotional responses were connected to. Nobody would tell me that one day an ectopic pregnancy would break my denial, and that I would flash back and relive the event of the death of Sarah Elizabeth.
I experienced hemorrhaging, intense cramping, infection, and fever. There are many other risks and complications to abortion. Emotionally, I suffered from deep depressions, breakups with boyfriends, guilt, shame, anger, fear, and a sense of enduring worthlessness.
I went back to school the second day with a great deal of fear, guilt, anxiety, and not knowing if I would have a complete abortion, or if I kept bleeding without stopping, I need to go to the emergency room to have the surgery.
My friends did not know how to talk to me anymore. My family would not talk to me about it. I became a huge problem in my youth group at church because I couldn't understand how God could possibly love me when He had allowed this to happen to me. I soon quit going to church.
I emerged from that healing institution with an invisible wound. A wound that went so deep that it would affect me for the rest of my life. I was different now. I was damaged. I was less than. I now had to hide this inadequacy. The sadness didn't go away. My life was plagued with bad relationships, depression, drinking to numb the emotional pain. 2 more abortions followed.
I started having nightmares and depression, and I had to seek help, and I realized I needed help for this healing. And I got it, and God's been good to me, and this ministry's been good for me.
Ironically, for a few, the painful experience of abortion has prompted us to stand up against the social acceptance of abortion in certain circumstances.
Shortly after my abortion, I went into depression and I lost a lot of weight. I became so thin, I didn't even look healthy. Shortly after that, I discovered my 3-month-old son had a debilitating disease, a bone disease. 5 years after that, I became pregnant. And the doctors warned me that my second child would probably be born with the same disease. They urged me to have an abortion. My friends even joined the doctors in trying to encourage me to have an abortion because they said, come on, you know this marriage is not going to work. You've already tried. You guys have separated and it's not going to work. Just don't do it. But I knew that I could never have that procedure again. I could never do that to myself or to anybody again. And thank God I didn't listen to the doctors or my friends. Even when I was a few months pregnant on my second child, the doctor said, at least let's do an amnio. Let's see if the baby has the disease and you can still abort it. I said, no, I'm not doing anything. And I thank God that I didn't listen to them because I have a beautiful, healthy daughter.
I love this scar. I love it. I love the fact that I don't have 2 breasts anymore. That I was 31 years old when a doctor told me that I may not see my beautiful 3-year-old daughter grow up. I love this scar, and do you know why I love this scar? I love it because it gave me the courage that I needed to love my dead child. Because for years I lied and I would tell everybody I never had an abortion. Even my doctors, I would say I never had an abortion. And when I finally did tell one doctor, he said I didn't need to worry about it because there's no risk with breast cancer and abortion. And I hope, standing before all of you today, that you now see and that you now will know that there is definitely a link between abortion and breast cancer. The day after I learned that I had breast cancer, I learned that I was pregnant. And there were many people who thought that my child should die because I had a little girl that I needed to raise. And having gone through what I had gone through, there was no way that I was going to kill my child. So I went through chemotherapy with my baby, and I am proud to say that he is 16 months old today, and he is beautiful, he is healthy, and he is strong. So for all those people who say we need abortion for women's health, I hope I am evidence that that is not true.
As the Silent No More awareness campaign began to grow, men asked if they could share the regret they feel for their involvement in aborting their children.
I realized how small of a man I was, because if I had gone with her that day, I probably would have realized what was happening. Maybe I would have realized what was happening. Maybe I would have saw how upset, how broken she was, and taken her by the hand and said, come on, let's get out of this place. And I didn't even do that.
I didn't defend the life of my own daughter based on misinformation, selfishness, fear, shame. I let her die to an abortionist's knife. And I died the same day.
I wasn't man enough to keep her alive and let the doctors abort her as I watched them stick a needle through my wife's stomach into my daughter's heart via the sonogram in order to shoot her with a mixture of salt and something to stop her heart at 24 weeks old.
And I stood and watched and did nothing. You see, and that came time after time into my life and hunt me time after time. Every night I would cry and say that I did the right thing. I wonder how my son or daughter would look like today if I would have stand up and be a man and fight for the life of my child.
For years after that, there was an emptiness in my soul. But I came to know that
I was not alone. You see, one of the biggest things that causes so much pain and that causes the suffering to continue for so long is the sense of isolation, the sense of being cut off from everyone else, being alone. And there came one day when there was an ad in a paper, which was put out by very many good people, just like you, that talked about how many of us had suffered. And right away there was that connection. And right away there was the process of healing that began. And there is hope, and there is healing for men and for women.
Forgiveness is the key to healing after abortion. Going through an abortion recovery program enables those suffering to also address many of the other emotions surrounding the experience.
I went through the post-abortion counseling, and that's when my life really changed, because the post-abortion counseling brings up this emotions that have been festering inside of you for all these years, the unforgiveness, anger, grief, all these things that you've been burying down. And so I was able to, through the counseling, give my children names and give them real personhood. Then I was finally able to grieve the loss from the abortion.
That night, a supernatural encounter with the living God derailed my attempt to take my own life. And it started a journey toward healing, reconciliation, and restoration that continues to this day. Jesus guided me to sensitive, compassionate women who led me through post-abortion healing. I was able to forgive myself and begin to grieve for the children that I had lost.
For many women, their abortion remains locked in secrecy because they fear judgment.
Secrets make you sick. And when you carry inside of yourself a secret like I carried for over 20 years, a secret my best friends, nor my mother, nor my sister knew that I was post-abortive. Not only was I post-abortive, but I worked in Christian television ministry and was post-abortive.
I began to regret my abortions, but it was still kind of up here. It wasn't a deep sorrow yet. And so I lived on as a Christian for many years, knowing that abortion was wrong and feeling kind of sad about it and regretting it, but not doing anything about it, not being proactive about it, not telling people about it, how it hurts your life.
You can't destroy the baby without destroying the mother. And you can't love and heal the baby without loving and healing the mother. That's what we want all Christians to do. We are calling in a particular way on pastors to proclaim that the doors of the church are open. We need pastors to proclaim that we who oppose abortion do not oppose those who have abortions, but rather we embrace them with the healing, mercy, and forgiveness of Christ.
In 1994, the Alan Guttmacher Institute reported that 43% of women in the United States under the age of 45 have had at least one abortion. So chances are you know someone who has been involved in an abortion. They need to know about the wonderful work being done through abortion recovery programs. There are now hundreds of people trained to offer help and healing from abortion. The campaign website provides links to all of these programs. Women who have experienced forgiveness and healing become empowered to break the silence, and they become billboards proclaiming the truth about abortion.
I started to yell, "Where is my baby? I want my baby." I will never forget what he said to me. He told me to be quiet, for I was upsetting the other patients in the recovery room. So in my grief and my shame, I never spoke of my abortion again until last year when I saw all of these brave, courageous women standing up here sharing their testimonies.
And last year I've been here for the first time. I didn't know about the March of Life. And as women was giving their testimonies, God healed my heart. And he was telling me, "Chantal, you know that I forgive you."
Nobody told me that the choice that I made that day would affect me for the rest of my life. I think that's the big lie about all of this. Nobody says to you, what you do now, you will always carry with you.
We will be here to teach those that simply don't understand, and we will hopefully change hearts and change minds in a culture that's lost its way and thinks the only hopeful answer to offer a woman in crisis is the death of her child.
Women and men sharing their personal perspective of abortion is the main focus of the campaign and the best way to raise awareness. Like all good campaigns that call attention to an important issue, Silent No More Awareness has developed a variety of products to promote our message. Through the Heritage House Catalog Company, bumper stickers, bookmarks, t-shirts, mugs, pens, and stickers are available to help break the silence about the true pain behind the choice of abortion, as well as promote the help and healing that is available. In addition to these products, the campaign has designed 2 billboards, one that features Jennifer O'Neill and a second one that captures many faces who regret their abortions. These billboards are being used by groups who see the need to support life and reach out to those hurting. The campaign also produced 3 television and radio commercials.
When I found out I was pregnant, I thought I would lose my job.
My boyfriend told me to choose between him and the baby.
I worried about staying in school.
I was already struggling to care for one child.
My parents told me I wasn't ready to be a mom, so I had an abortion. I had physical problems afterwards.
I went from relationship to relationship.
I hated myself.
I started to have nightmares.
I cried when I saw a pregnant woman. I tried to commit suicide.
I couldn't bond with the child I later had.
I tried to numb my pain with alcohol.
I struggled with depression.
I had trouble conceiving again.
You see, abortion didn't solve our problems.
It just created different ones.
Each of us thought we were the only ones struggling afterward.
Now we realize many women regret their choice.
That's why we are Silent No More.
We found help and healing, and you can too. Call or go online today.
The spots are used by many groups who want to help raise awareness. The Silent No More Awareness Campaign is not an organization. It is simply a campaign to raise awareness. It is sponsored by Priests for Life and Noel, and does not directly seek to address the legal or political perspective of abortion, as many who claim to represent women do. While the other side sees the right to abortion about winning and losing, the campaign sees the right to abortion as wrong for women's health and well-being. Pregnant women deserve better than abortion. We need for society, especially churches, to offer real choices and support, so abortion will be unnecessary and ultimately unthinkable. Please join us in raising awareness about the adverse effects of abortion by sharing the personal perspectives heard here. You could prevent another person from suffering the consequences of abortion and save a life.
We are Silent No More.
I was 18 when I had my first abortion. I got pregnant the very first time I had sex. I wish somebody had told me that the first time I had sex I would get pregnant. I wish that somebody had told me that that man who I thought was my knight in shining armor would end up betraying me and his child in choosing not to father or be a part of that baby's life. I also wish somebody would have told me that the $300 that I paid for that abortion didn't make my life simpler or solve my problem as I was told it would, but it would actually cause me more complications. My choice was being based on being frightened, being shocked, very self-seeking, deserving, irresponsible, and worried about what my parents or my neighbors or my friends might think. And yet my parents tell me today that if I had been honest with them and told them, they probably would have understood and helped me raise my son. I wish somebody would have told me that life is about choices, and the pro-choice that I was making would actually turn out to be a poor choice. I wish somebody had told me that Planned Parenthood and family planning wouldn't know the first thing about caring for one of their patients. And I wish somebody would have told me that I could have gotten off the table when I realized it was too late or that I was making a mistake. The procedure was not like the removal of a tooth. I don't regret going to the dentist. And I wish somebody would have told me that I would have felt appalled by myself, with myself, after the procedure as I walked out the back door of the clinic. I wish somebody would have told me that there was so much physical and emotional pain involved, not just then, but 23 years later, and that one day I would truly regret the choice I was making. I wish somebody had told me that not only would I blame myself for my own abortion, but for the abortion that I was involved with when I drove my girlfriend